Hey man, I do what I do.
Oftentimes, get off the boat, be able to run and catch up with 100, 200, 300, 400 black people. Then round them up in the interior of Africa, by the way. Some of y'all don't even like to walk in your backyard when the grass is too high. Can you imagine running through the bush of Africa after leaving a boat and rounding up 400 black people and bringing them back to the boat in chains, okay, across hundreds of miles and desert and different terrain? Do you, without their people coming to attack, you don't really think that white people did that, do you? You don't. Okay, good. I'm glad that we all on the same page. No. So what does that mean? That means they had help. Okay. Obviously, they had help. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they had help. Okay. And again, as I said, now picture that and understand that oppressive systems that claim superiority actually rely on the very people they try to hold down. In other words, they had other Africans using that. They coerced them with money. Hey, yeah, man, I'll give you some money for some black people, call them slaves and put them on my boat. Okay, well, what do we need to do? Well, go, I don't know, whatever you do. So you have people, leaders on the African continent picking fights and saying, okay, we're at war. Okay. Now, and then they would go capture folks, put them in the pen. White folks would show up, Portugal, Spain, etc. And they round folks up and they put them on the slave ships. But they wouldn't be able to do it without help. There's a book called The Daughters of the Trade, which actually went into great detail explaining all the help provided by Africans on the west coast of Africa and all throughout the coast of Congo, where they helped the European slavers. And that's why I tell you guys all the time, the Africans owe you as much, those African nations which took over that land from those kingdoms, they owe you as much reparations as any European nation. Somebody type reparations in the chat room. Somebody type reparations for FBA in the chat rooms. Now, again, that's just one example, okay? And you know, they use you to help you fight against you, okay? Now, the other thing is people in power often believe they can keep others down forever. But history shows that that's just not true. The more you try to control people, the more that you inspire them to rebel. All right. Now, here's the thing. It's often forgotten, but you know, there were hundreds of slave rebellions throughout the United States from the time they put us and brought us over here. Okay. We was trying our darndest to free ourselves. Okay. We were not waiting around for a savior. We wasn't waiting around for the Civil War. I mean, you looking at a dam about to break. And black folks were fighting. They were fighting like heck to get themselves free. You understand what I'm saying? And same thing goes for the segregation laws meant to keep black people powerless. All those marches, you had black people taking time out their Sundays. Oh, we can't walk down this street. We're going to all walk down the street. All of us coming down here. Me, grandma, the kids, everybody coming down. We go now. You're going to hit us with, put you on TV showing them just how ruthless you are. You see? Even situations where when workers were exploited during the Industrial Revolution, they fought back, forming unions, labor unions. When women were denied basic rights, they organized protests and movements for change. That's what they did. You will not keep people oppressed. There's something innate about every human being that says, I will be free. Okay? You will not keep human beings oppressed. It goes against our nature. No matter what, man, woman, child, y'all got some bad kids you can't control. Shout out to all the parents with bad kids. All the parents with bad kids. Go, you probably supposed to be asleep right now. You sitting in your room, sipping some wine, listening to Uncle D with your earphones on, and you hear them little steps going to the kitchen. The child feels oppressed right now, trying to tell them to go to sleep, or to go now. You understand? They over there on the iPad right now. Okay, but again, oppression doesn't just cause suffering. It creates the drive to fight back. There was a writer named Audre Lorde. Okay, and she said this in the book, or the name of the book is The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House. Okay, all right. So think about Joy Reid in that regard. Think about all these other people. They never really talk bad about their liberal paymasters, or in some cases, their conservative paymasters. They never do that. All right. But see, the thing is, this means a system built on oppression relies on tools like propaganda, unfair laws, economic control, and that will eventually fail. You know, segregation was supposed to keep power in the hands of white folks. Did that work out well? No, largely because white folks, especially white men, kept coming over to the black side of town making biracial babies. That's largely what happened, right? And white men could keep their hands off of black women. There you go. How about that? We don't want to talk about that, do we? Remember that first case, Loving versus Virginia? That was a white man who was trying to get him some of that colored woman. That's what that was about. That's why your segregation failed, because white men had to have it. Somebody type had to have it in the chat room. You see what I'm saying? Even when the colonial rulers tried to control indigenous people, right? Through education and cut their hair and made them forget their language. But those same schools ended up helping people gain knowledge, and they needed to fight for their own freedom. And system and things is system based on lies, fear, and exploitation can only last for so long before they fall apart. Because you have that indomitable spirit, that indomitable human spirit that will fight back. Look, like all forms of oppression, white supremacy is not unbeatable. In fact, if you sit back, you can see it beating itself. Okay. Eventually, it's going to collapse under its own weight. The question isn't if it is, will it happen? But, you know, we know it's going to happen. The question is when. And the more people recognize its contradictions and injustices, the closer we get to dismantling it. Okay. Now, that being the case, I want to talk a little bit about a great example I always saw. You know, when I guess we call them, those tools end up getting used by the same system. So the transatlantic slave trade, because we talked a little bit about how our African ancestors were purchased from the west coast of Africa, but we don't often talk about the transatlantic slave trade. And I want you to understand it was built on violence, it was built on deception, it was built on betrayal. Now keep in mind, there was also the sub-Saharan slave trade that pre-existed the transatlantic slave trade by 1,300 years. In other words, Africans were being stolen and taken east for over 1,000 years before the first European came and took Africans across the Atlantic. So keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? Everybody's culpable. And again, I know we got some African brothers and sisters in here, but it's good you need to know your history too. You need to know what you did. This is you. Come over here and get your good talking to. Sit down and get your talking to. All right. Now, the thing is, though, for 3 centuries, millions of Africans were captured and forced on the ships bound for what was called the New World. The New World is the northern hemisphere. Is North America, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. All right. But this was often overlooked. I said, what I should say was often overlooked is how even those who participated in capturing others were not safe. See, many of these African traders and warriors who were bribed and coerced, right, into helping European slavers, right, eventually they found themselves in chains, thrown into the very ships they once helped fill. So at the height of the transatlantic slave trade, European and American slavers depended on African intermediaries to capture and sell captives from deep within the continent. And these African traders were, whether they were local leaders or warriors or just straight up opportunists, they were offered weapons, textiles, alcohol, brothers over there getting drunk, and other goods in exchange for enslaved people. They wanted those European things. Now, these powerful West African states, such as the Ashanti, the Dahomey, the Oyo, they dominated the internal trade routes. Like they literally had trade routes throughout Africa where they would, bring slaves in, and they believe they can control their own fates while profiting from the system.
DennisSpurling got the mic on fire.
Black father, I have black son.
Tune in, weekly feeling inspired. From the heart, real talk ignite. Every episode brings the light. Subscribe, hit the like, won't you dare. Share the love, you know it's fair. Join us every week, don't be late. Drop some coins in the collection plate. Drop some coins, enjoy the ride, come say hi. Catch the wave, don't pass by. Lifted spirits always in sight. In this podcast, joy takes flight. Subscribe, hit the like, won't you dare. Share the love, you know it's fair. Join us every week, don't be late. Drop some coins in the collection plate. Drop some coins.
Donation. I thought it was a class.
Hey man, I do what I do.
You know that.
Your ass class, don't come over here. You tall black women up inside. I don't give a fuck about